Welcome! Let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating, high-speed chapter in superhero mythos, Iron Man 2. We're going to do a complete chronological breakdown of Tony Stark's sudden personal downfall, his bitter international rivalries, and ultimately his redemption. It's a super compelling story about what actually happens when a guy who seemingly has it all realizes he's rapidly running out of time.
Okay, let's dive into this structured roadmap for unpacking this chaotic, action-packed narrative. We've got 5 key areas today: a target on Stark's back, the ticking clock, sins of the father, the Stark Expo showdown, and wrapping up with the Avengers initiative.
Section 1. A target on Stark's back. So when we drop into this story, Tony Stark is at the absolute peak of his success. And, let's be honest, his ego. He's putting on this massive, extravagant Stark Expo and just straight up refusing to hand his Iron Man suit over to a Senate Armed Services Committee. And it's actually easy to see why when we look at the broader landscape of privatized global security. Stark Tech, it's working seamlessly. It is single-handedly maintaining global stability. But meanwhile, worldwide attempts to replicate his armor are just a complete and utter disaster. The North Korean versions are a total joke, the Iranian models literally crash immediately, and his main corporate rival, Justin Hammer, he's building knockoff suits that are straight up injuring their own test pilots. So Tony's undeniable genius is juxtaposed really sharply against this incredibly dangerous incompetence. And in his own mind, this perfectly justifies exactly why he simply cannot share his technology with the rest of the world.
Section 2. The ticking clock. Now, behind all that public bravado lies a deeply hidden internal tension that drives almost every single reckless decision Tony makes in the first half of this story. We're talking about Palladium Poisoning. While he's out there smiling for the cameras and playing the untouchable billionaire, he is quietly dying. You see, the Iron Man suit burns through these palladium cores, and the very Arc Reactor embedded in his chest, the thing that keeps shrapnel from entering his heart, is simultaneously degrading his blood. It's this cruel, cruel irony. The exact technology keeping him alive is literally poisoning him to death. He's checking his toxicity levels in secret, realizing his options are just completely gone. This mortal urgency, it absolutely recontextualizes everything that happens next.
So, the crucial point is, how does a brilliant futurist act when he realizes he actually has no future? Well, he becomes incredibly erratic. Driven by this terminal diagnosis, Tony's behavior just completely spirals. Look at the timeline. In week 1, he's tired of bowing to other people's agendas, right? So he abruptly promotes his trusted assistant, Pepper Potts, to CEO of Stark Industries. Bam! Then by week 2, he is recklessly taking the wheel of a race car to compete at professional levels in the Monaco Grand Prix. Insane! And then by week 3, preparing for what he genuinely believes is his last birthday ever, a dying Tony gets absolutely sloshed. This results in a highly destructive, crazy brawl with his best friend, James Rhodes, who is literally forced to commandeer the Mark II suit just to stop him.
But this reckless behavior introduces a brand new threat at that Monaco Grand Prix, along with a truly spectacular piece of portable tech. While Tony is out there racing, this guy named Ivan Vanko steps right onto the track wielding a homemade Arc Reactor harness and these devastating energy whips that are just slicing cars clean open. It's a massive shock to everyone, a rival Arc Reactor appearing out of absolutely nowhere. In a total panic, Tony's team rushes the track and they actually manage to get the Mark V emergency briefcase suit to him just in the nick of time. With its lighter armor and limited flight capabilities, it barely saves his life, but it does allow Tony to bind up Vanko's whips and rip out his reactor.
Yet, even disarmed and dragged away, Ivan Vanko doesn't look defeated at all. Actually, he looks victorious. And he delivers this absolutely chilling line to Tony: "You come from a family of thieves and butchers." Wow, this forces Tony, and us as the audience, to realize that legacy isn't just about the wealth or tech you inherit. It's about the enemies your family created along the way. Vanko isn't just some random rogue engineer. He's a man fueled by a really deep-seated, generational hatred for the entire Stark family.
Section 3. Sins of the Father. When director Nick Fury and agent Natasha Romanoff finally intervene, Tony is basically forced to confront a dark mirror of his own life. Decades ago, his father, Howard Stark, partnered with a Soviet scientist named Anton Vanko to conceptualize the original Arc Reactor. But Anton was a double agent, seeking profit, and because of that, he was deported and completely disgraced. Now, history is repeating itself, and this brilliantly illustrates the parallels here. We have Tony Stark, the billionaire superhero currently suffering from failing health, matched directly against Ivan Vanko, a vengeful genius who had to watch his disgraced father die in poverty. The father's Cold War rivalry has quite literally birthed the son's modern-day war.
And of course, corporate hubris provides the absolute perfect catalyst for disaster. Justin Hammer, who is just incredibly desperate to upstage Tony, orchestrates Ivan Vanko's breakout from prison. He actually fakes Vanko's death with a substitute body in the cell. Hammer thinks he's just buying a disgruntled employee, using his own limitless corporate resources combined with Vanko's mind to finally destroy Tony's legacy. But actually, scratch that. He's basically funding a Trojan horse. Vanko immediately manipulates Hammer. Rather than building wearable suits for his new boss like he was hired to do, Vanko easily hacks the software and converts all the armor into a small army of heavily armed, unpiloted drones.
Meanwhile, back at home, Tony discovers a message hidden in plain sight by his late father, hinting at a literal key to the future. To cure his poisoning, he executes this brilliant, desperate scientific breakthrough. First up, he digitizes his father's 1974 Stark Expo diorama model into a 3D projection, which reveals the atomic structure of an entirely new element. Then, because, well, he's Tony Stark, he literally tears apart his own home to build a massive prismatic accelerator right there in his living room. Finally, he synthesizes this brand new non-toxic element to power his heart. Just like that, the Palladium Poisoning is cured and the entire tide of the narrative completely turns.
Section 4. The Stark Expo Showdown.
Over at the Expo, Justin Hammer is putting on this massive, flashy presentation showing off his new military drones and James Rhodes in a heavily weaponized War Machine suit. A cured, newly energized Tony arrives to warn Rhodey, but man, he is just a second too late. Vanko, operating remotely, hacks the entire system, and instantly the threat multiplies exponentially. Just look at the breakdown. The odds are split evenly against Tony. He's facing hijacked Navy drones, Army drones, his own best friend trapped inside the War Machine suit, and eventually Vanko himself. Tony is forced to take endless evasive action, rocketing into the night sky with a literal army hot on his tail.
What follows is an absolute masterclass in simultaneous crisis management. While Agent Romanoff uses her advanced combat training to effortlessly neutralize the guards and retake control at Hammer's base, even managing to reboot Rhodes' suit remotely, Tony and a newly freed Rhodey are pushed right to the brink. They find themselves standing back-to-back in the Expo's Japanese gardens, taking on dozens of these heavily armed drones at once. And at the exact same time, down on the ground, Pepper Potts expertly oversees a massive park evacuation and makes sure that Justin Hammer is finally arrested for his crimes. It is non-stop action.
Then, Vanko arrives in person. He's encased in this heavily upgraded Whiplash suit, and he traps both Tony and Rhodey in these massive energy cables. But the two friends manage to reconcile just in time to survive the kill zone. They remember their drunken brawl from earlier and deliberately fire their repulsors directly at each other. They're weaponizing their past conflict to create this massive shockwave that totally defeats Vanko. In a final, spiteful act, Vanko sets all the downed drones to self-destruct. And in a really desperate sprint against the ticking clock, Tony flies at breakneck speed, pulling a full Neo to pluck Pepper from the self-destructing wreckage just in the nick of time.
Section 5. The Avengers Initiative.
So, in the aftermath of these explosive Expo events, Tony heads into a debrief with director Nick Fury, and it results in a hilariously ironic assessment. On one hand, the Iron Man armor? Highly recommended for the Avengers Initiative. The tech is just unmatched and undeniable. But the man inside? Well, Tony Stark is officially deemed too volatile and self-obsessed, restricting him entirely to a mere consultant status. Sure, he and Rhodes might receive medals of valor for saving the day, but Tony's massive ego officially remains a distinct liability to S.H.I.E.L.D.
But before we wrap up, our explainer leaves us with one incredibly lingering thread. Throughout this entire chaotic ordeal, S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Coulson was quietly reassigned to a secretive mission. Far away in a New Mexico desert, Coulson stares down at a mysterious crater and a hammer. So, what does this all mean? Well, it's a stark reminder that Tony's universe is about to get much, much bigger. Thanks so much for exploring this chapter with me. Keep asking questions and keep looking deeper.